Hello and welcome to the 9th Annual Accessibility Awareness Days event. I'm Sherry Gagno, Accessibility Manager in the Office of Human Rights, Equity and Accessibility, and the moderator for the event this week. I'm sitting in my office at the university with windows behind me. I'm a middle-aged woman with long brown hair and a light complexion. I'm wearing a black dress with blue flowers. This is the last of 5 short workshops that made up the event this year. So glad you could join today as we wrap up things with a very timely message. If you've been tuning in, you'll know that there will be a 20-minute presentation, leaving time for a short question and answer period. Please type your questions in the Q&A box during the presentation and we will address them at the end. Also, mics will be turned on at the end of the session so you can ask your questions that way as well. Since this is a short session, we will be sending out an information package with additional resources for those who wish to learn more. If you require closed captioning, look for the 3 dots in the menu bar and scroll to the bottom of the drop-down menu and select Turn on Live Captions. This week's topic is mental health supports and tips for dealing with pandemic stress. Our presenters this week are Dr. Mohsen Beg, Executive Director, Student Help, Counseling and Wellness Services, and Marcela Ciampa, Director, Organizational Development and Training in Human Resources. And now it gives me great pleasure to turn the presentation over to Mohsen and Marcela.
All right, great, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Let's see, well, that did not work, so I will scroll down and try it this way.
Mohsen, just open it in PowerPoint, and at the top of PowerPoint, it says Present in Teams.
Present in Teams, okay.
Yeah, so if you open it, and then right at the top, it says Present in Teams right next to Share, yeah. And it should open up.
Okay, drum roll, sharing your slides. Okay, great. Everyone can see that? Good, okay. All right, well, I have about 20 minutes and I'm gonna get through some of this content. Some slides I may skip over in the interest of time. But I thought what I'd talk to you today about is caring for your mental health and well-being and then providing some resources. We're gonna talk a little bit about what mental health is, some of the impact in terms of COVID and the uncertainty and change that has come with the pandemic. And then resources, talk about maybe a couple coping skills that we can look at, and then resources where you can turn to for help. So what is mental health, right? So when we talk about mental health, you know, we use this term and sometimes it's used interchangeably with mental illness. They're 2 different things, right? We know that 1 in 5 Canadians suffers from mental illness, but we know that all of us all have mental health, right? And mental health, much like physical health, can vary over time. We can struggle with mental health at different points in time in our lives, right? So the definition from the Government of Canada is the capacities of each of us, in all of us, to feel, think, and act in ways that enhance our ability to enjoy life and deal with the challenges we face. It is a positive sense of emotional and spiritual well-being that respects the importance of culture, equity, social justice, interconnection, and personal dignity. So our mental health, basically, if you look in this definition, can be impacted by a number of things, right? The events around us, the people around us, our environment, genetics, right? So there's many things that we can do that can impact our mental health and well-being. I'm going to skip this slide for a moment. This is just wanted to give you a quick poll that we did. So every 3 years we do a study with the National College Health Assessment Survey, asking our students about their health in general, physical health, sexual health, mental health. So this is just a little bit of the data that came out of that survey in 2019. And basically, you can see in terms of students reporting in the last 12 months, have they experienced any of the following? High anxiety, about 66%, so 2/3. Feeling isolated, very lonely, which we know is a huge risk factor for mental health issues, 2/3. Feeling hopeless, over half. Very depressed, about half. And then the most serious, right, thoughts of suicide was 14%. And then we had also, it's not included in the side, but had actually attempted suicide was between 1 and 2%. So this really talks about, right, and shows that, wow, our students are having difficulties at some point and at different points of their lives with mental health issues, right? The most common ones are anxiety, depression, but you'll see everything under the sun, and we do at the counseling center. So what we know from this is saying, all right, what can we do to kind of support our mental health, right? And what has had an impact on our mental health, right? COVID has obviously been a time of uncertainty and change, right? The human brain loves predictability. We like structure. We don't like not knowing things, like to have a plan, right? COVID, unlike other, say, for example, a natural disaster, where there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. There's a kind of predictable timeline to it. COVID hasn't been like that. It's a moving target, right? It has been, oh, yeah, we're in the first wave. Oh, we're coming out of it. Oh, no, second wave. Okay. Vaccinations, all right, well, 1 dose. No, you need 2 doses. Actually, you need 3. What kind of variant? Different variants, Omicron, Delta, right? So it's this moving target that doesn't allow for what our brain needs, that predictability, structure, something that we can hold on to that, yeah, this is ending, right? We've been cycling through this, which just ramps up anxiety and uncertainty, right? And that takes up energy, takes up physical energy, takes up mental energy, takes up emotional energy, right? So people, you'll notice, even within ourselves, people around us, there's more frustration, there's more irritability, there's more sadness, right? Coping strategies that we've relied on weren't available to us. Seeing people, seeing friends, going to the gym, engaging in activities, going to the movies, right? Things that we might rely on to help us cope. It was a double whammy that we didn't have those to rely on, right? So what you see, and what I like to say sometimes, is an injured population, right? And what I mean by that is all of us have been affected by this to varying degrees. So the stress, the anxiety, the worry, the feeling overwhelmed, the exhausted, all normal. It's all normal. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Doesn't mean that you're weak. Doesn't mean that you can't handle stress. This is all normal, right? We are returning to campus to some degree and differing degrees of injury, right? So when that happens, I think it's something for us to all keep in mind for ourselves, for our coworkers, as managers, to keep in mind for your staff, that we are all coming back with some degree of injury. And that means that you're not going to be 100%. If you, for example, had a broken arm or a cast on your leg, very obvious. People can see, oh, this person's injured. Of course, I'm not going to expect them to be able to run as fast as they normally would or work at a pace that they normally would. We don't have to say anything. Mental health is invisible, right? And so it's being able to keep that in mind that, yeah, we are all coming back injured, and it's going to take time for us to individually heal and heal as a community and move forward. It's not just flipping a light switch and say, hey, May 1st, 100%, we're back, and everyone should be back to normal. That's not going to happen, right? It's going to take some time. Just to give you an example, right, they looked at the Twin Towers, for example, and after 9/11, the rates of anxiety in New York City 10 years after that were still 300 to 400% higher than the rest of the country. 10 years later, right? So these things have an impact on us. They don't just go away quickly. So we have to be able to take care of ourselves, right? So what are signs that you might need to reach out for some support, right? Not feeling like yourself, increased irritability, or getting angry or frustrated, wanting to withdraw from other people, losing joy in things that you used to enjoy doing, right? Sadness that won't go away, constant kind of worrying, crying more than normal, using substances to cope, thoughts of suicide. These are all kind of cues that, all right, maybe I should reach out to someone and get some help, right? I really love this quote from John Kabat-Zinn, right? You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. And so that's what coping is all about. It is learning how to surf those waves, right? Resilience is about focusing on the things we can control. So what are this kind of generally some coping mechanisms that you can use? And we divided them up. And these are from our mental health and wellness coordinator, Katie Chauvin, who's done an awesome job and has on the website. And I'll get to some of those links later. But in terms of resources that you can help to cope, but divided up into three kind of main areas, right? The first is caring for your mind, right? So how do you do that? An important part is setting boundaries around time, right? Being respectful of your own time, setting a schedule. Your schedules may have to change now. You've had a routine that you're used to in COVID, right? Now, if you're coming back to work, that might have to change. So practice changing that, right, before you're coming back to work, right? Reflect on when there have been difficult times in my life. What have I done? What are coping techniques that have helped me, right? What we talked about, having a plan is really useful because then it allows your brain to go, okay, I know what's going to happen next. You remember those fire drills we used to do in school or even here at work, right? There's a reason we do that, so that if a fire does happen, we know exactly what to do. You don't wait to do a fire drill when there's a fire, right? You plan ahead of time. Practicing mindfulness, so being present and in the moment. Anxiety is all about the future, right? What if this happens? What if this happens? Mindfulness is very much about what is and staying in the moment, right? So that meditating, yoga, mindfulness, that is, taking care of your mind, which is critical, especially during these times, right? Mental health and physical health are very intimately connected. We don't live in a vacuum or silos. So taking care of your body is critical, right? I would start with number one thing is sleep, right? Making sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. It's restorative. We know from the sleep research that what happens is your neurons, those neuronal connections in your brain that aren't being used, there's a chemical process where those old neurons are broken down. It's like kind of the garbage man of the brain. It comes in, cleans up stuff, so that can make room for new connections. But it only happens when you're sleeping. If you're not getting enough sleep, that process doesn't happen. And do you ever get that experience like, oh, I can't even take any more information. My mind is too full. Because literally it's too full. Those connections haven't been broken down. So sleep is huge, right? Exercise. Exercise 3 times a week. Moderate exercise is better than antidepressant medication for mild to moderate depression. So get moving. It's your body's natural antidepressant, right? Knowing what stresses you out, right? Being aware of when your body's stressed out. Some people might feel it in their shoulders or stress or muscles tense up, right? Some people might feel it more gastrointestinal, their stomach gets upset. But whatever your cues are, know your body is saying, hey, what are kind of warning signs? My body's going knock, knock, knock. You're kind of getting stressed out here, right? So you can practice breathing. Deep breathing is the best way, the quickest way to kind of de-escalate and slow down your activated nervous system, right? It helps shut down that sympathetic nervous system that's pumping adrenaline and cortisol into your body. So caring for your body is huge, right? And then caring for your emotions, right? That would be kind of the third main bucket, right? Is whatever your spirituality is, right? Whatever your practices are, and connecting with other human beings. We are social animals, right? So there's healing in company, right? And being around people that you care about, friends, loved ones, family, right? Activities that you enjoy, right? Those release dopamine, serotonin, and those kind of positive neurotransmitters, right? So giving yourself time, right? Giving yourself space, right? So compassion is really about kindness to oneself, right? It's about learning that and being mindful and taking care of each other as well. So if you can take care of your mind, your body, your emotions, those are ways that we can help navigate, the stress and the difficulties that we're going through in terms of coming out of this pandemic, hopefully coming out of it, right? But what about when you're struggling and the coping techniques aren't working. Or you're finding, yeah, I'm doing some of them, but I need to reach out and get some more help, right? Where can I go to get that? So let's talk about, in terms of for students, what's available is every student, hopefully, that maybe is listening that's on here, if you know students, should download this app, the My Student Support Program, My SSP app, right? And I think that barcode works too. If you're a student, you want to just put that up there. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week app. You can do it by phone or by chat. It comes in 30 different, languages in terms of instant support. We originally did it for international students, and then we expanded it to all students. But if at 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve and you need to talk to somebody, you can call or chat and have a mental health therapist, a counselor available to you. Right? So that's available as a support for 24/7 support. So I encourage people to download that. TAO, which is also something that's free and available. It is a series of online videos in terms of learning coping strategies. You can access anytime. So they have modules on depression, modules on resilience, right? Modules on managing anxiety. They even have stuff on addiction or pain management, right? And this is available to all students, staff, faculty, anyone that wants to join. You can sign up with your Windsor email address, and it's all free to you. There's a mindfulness library on there to do mindfulness exercises, right? And so those are available to you on Therapy Assist online. Students can come to the Student Counseling Center, right? We have virtual appointments. We have now in-person appointments now. If they need to speak to a mental health professional, that's an option. Like, we're here for you. We have our staff of social workers, registered psychotherapists, psychologists, and we encourage you to reach out for help sooner than later. Student health services also. We have our dedicated and caring physicians and nurses and staff that can see people as well. About 35 to 40% of the patients coming into student health services is for mental health. We have a psychiatrist once a week that is also there for people that need more kind of, help in terms of maybe more specific medication or more specific psychiatric support. So that psychiatrist is there from September till end of April. And there's other offices on campus, again, available to all students. If any students have concerns with sexual assault or sexual misconduct, there's, Dr. Dusty Johnson and the great work she does in the sexual misconduct response and prevention office. There's peer support. If people are reluctant to talk to professionals, or you want to talk to an expert and they want to talk to a peer, there's the Peer Support Center, where there's trained volunteers who can do peer support. And Student Accessibility Services, another office that is, in terms of if students need some temporary or ongoing supports for their learning and accommodations, right, for helping students with temporary and permanent disabilities, they're available. And so their information is listed here. And then there's options that are available to all of us, student or not student. Wellness Together Canada. It is a fantastic website. I would recommend that you visit if you have the opportunity. www.wellnesstogether.ca. A lot of resources, information, videos, a lot of good information there in terms of supports that can be available, and that's available to anyone in Canada, right? Good to Talk, another type of thing in terms of support for post-secondary, mental health support for post-secondary. Then there's crisis resources. If someone is having thoughts of suicide or feeling that they can't keep themselves safe, right? There's the Canada Suicide Prevention Line, again, by phone or text, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? For anyone concerned, that they can call that 1-800 number or text 45645, right? And there's also a crisis text line through Kids Help Phone. And these are resources. I'll make these slides available to people so that they, make sure I can send them out to everyone so that you have these. And then locally, the Community Crisis Line is available. And then at any time, if all of those are exhausted and you need immediate help, you want in-person, someone that is feeling suicidal or can't keep themselves safe, there's the Crisis and Mental Wellness Center, right? You can walk in or go to the emergency room. So, that's the other one I just mentioned, the Windsor Regional Walk-in Crisis Service emergency room that you can go to. I just want to end with reaching out for support is actually a sign of strength, right? It doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean you can't handle things. It doesn't mean there's something defective or wrong with you, right? You are taking care of yourself, right? You are showing strength and saying, hey, I need help right now. It is always brave. It is never weakness, right? And we want you here at the university, and many of my colleagues who are on this call will say the same thing. If you're struggling, please reach out for help. And if you see someone struggling, please ask, right? I always tell somebody, if it was your son, daughter, brother, sister, partner, mother, father that was struggling, would you not want someone to actually ask them if they're okay? So definitely reach out and ask for help. There's no shame in it, and it can prevent things from getting out of hand, right? If you have any questions, you can reach out to our mental health and wellness coordinator at wellness@uwindsor.ca. There's a lot of resources on the website. The Wellness Outreach Office, I encourage you to use them. And I know there's stuff specifically that Marcella will get into for staff and faculty. So thank you.
Thank you, Mohsen, and good morning, everyone. I'm just here to add to Mohsen already cover a lot of the supports available, but we wanted to make sure that we also reminded all of you that there are supports available to employees and how to access them. So I'm just going to share my screen because all of the information is on the website. So I just wanted to have this opportunity to really highlight how to access that information, and also after today's session, Sherry is going to be sharing a one-page flyer that you're more than welcome to share that with individuals in your teams, your colleagues. The more we can get the information out, the better it is. As Mohsen mentioned, this is a time of change, a time of transition for many of our employees. And with that, we know it comes stress, anxiety, and so the more we can connect our colleagues to the resource available, the better it is. So I'm just showing the employee mental health resources that you can access from our human resources page. You go to workplace wellness, you click on employee mental health resources, and I'll leave this piece for a minute because that is where the bulk of resources for employees are. But in this page, we connect you not only to our employee and family assistance program, but we also connect you to the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit, to the specific page that links you to many of the resources that Mohsen shared that are available to everyone in the community. There's also a 211 that is a great resource. You can type the type of service that you're looking for, and it will connect you to everyone in our community that provides that service. We also have connected you to information, to key resources that we typically use when we send out those wellness e-digest and wellness tips that, again, have a lot of great information. The Mental Health Commission of Canada is also a great resource. But I want to spend a couple of minutes connecting you to the EAP program. Life Work is the name. It is the same service provided by Morna Chappelle, but they are transitioning to the name Life Works. And one of the key that we wanted to highlight is that this is available to you and your family members, that it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Confidentiality is critical, so they do not share the information to the University of Windsor. They only share statistics, and that's for accountability purposes. So again, you should feel confident to be able to reach that information is not going to come to us, and that it is available in English and French. So what do they offer? They offer short-term professional counseling, and what we have done is describe each of those: family support services, legal support services, financial service, naturopathic services, nutritional services, health coaching, and specialized counseling. And the great thing about this service is that you can access by phone, online, and also they have a mobile app. So I encourage you to go and download the app for easy access to services. For those of you who have supervisory responsibilities, I encourage you to take a look at the resources for supervisors. They do offer manager consultations. So if you're struggling with an issue and you require some guidance as a supervisor on how you should manage that, please reach out to them. They have also a manager area of their online portal. So all of the details are there. I know we only have a few minutes, so I want to turn it over to Sherry, but the key is wanted you to be aware and to connect you with those key resources that are available to you. So again, you can access all of that information from the HR website under Workplace Wellness, Employee Mental Health Resources, and you access the EFAP and also the other resources. So that's a quick overview. Now back over to you, Sherry.
Thanks a lot, Marcella and Mohsen. That was really timely information. So we do have actually a few questions that have come up already. The microphones should be on, so if you want to ask a question, feel free to turn on your mics as well. But I'm just going to go into the question and answers that have been posted already. So the first one that came up, someone is asking if they can get a copy of the slides. Yes, we will be sending out the copy of the slides and a few additional resources that were discussed today. So we'll be sending that out in a few days, as well as a link to this recorded session. And there is another question. Is there any time I can say to someone, I don't believe you? Recently, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock and mental health issues were mentioned as a contributing cause of this action. Should I excuse questionable behavior in the light of this kind of information when we face it with colleagues or employees? Do I have a right to ask others about their mental health issues? So Mohsen, I'll turn that question over to you.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So in terms of, let's kind of ask your second question first. So absolutely, we want to be able to ask people, I might not ask, I don't believe you, right? That kind of sets a negative tone. It's more in terms of, if you're asking questions about concern, you're concerned about somebody. I always tell people, try to pretend you're like a video camera, right? And what I mean by that is a video camera doesn't make judgments. It doesn't assume, like, you don't come up to someone, you know what, I listened to Dr. Begg talk, and based on what he said, I think you have depression, anxiety, and a touch of narcissism. No, I wouldn't say that, right? Instead, I'd say, hey, you know what I've noticed? You're more irritable lately, or you're not taking care of yourself, or you're withdrawing, stuff that you would see with your eyes, right? And say, and then I'm worried about you. Is everything okay? And you give the person, unless it's an imminent suicidal kind of or risk to harm herself, you give that time to percolate, right? So sometimes, I had this many times over the last 20 years, right? You might say something, the person goes, no, I'm okay, I'm fine, right? Why are you asking? No, everything's great, right? I'll tell you a short, quick story. I was at a suicide prevention conference, and a professor was talking, and he said, I was just leaving class, and there was a student sitting outside my office, and outside the lecture hall, sorry, and he had his kind of head in his hands like this. So I stopped and I asked the student, are you okay? Is everything okay? I'm going to office hours if you'd like to chat. The student looked up at me kind of surprised and said, no, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. Why are you asking? Well, I just saw you sitting there, you look a bit down, so I thought if you want to talk. He goes, no, everything's good. He said 3 years later, that student was graduating, and he came across the stage, and he asked the prof who was on stage presenting, he said, do you remember me? I was in your first year class. And he said, oh, yeah, I remember. He goes, I wanted to thank you. He said, for what? He goes, that day you asked me if I was okay? He goes, you saved my life. I was planning to kill myself that evening. He goes, and just by you asking if I was okay, even though I didn't tell you what was going on, it made me think, like, if there's one person, this prof who doesn't really know me is actually caring about me, maybe I should care about myself. And so I went and got some help. and I went and got into counseling. So just by asking a simple question, "Are you okay?" he saved a life, and he didn't even know it. So yes, we should ask, right? Human beings, we have a tendency to underreact, right? Not overreact. We have a tendency, oh, it's not my problem. It's not my business. I might offend somebody. At worst, they'll say, you know, I'm fine. You know, in our suicide prevention video we showed, and a student said it brilliantly. He goes, I'd rather be okay and someone ask if I'm not okay than not be okay and nobody ask, right? So yes, ask the question, and if they don't want to share with you, that's okay. You've planted a seed. They may come back to you 2 weeks later, 2 months later, 6 months later, and say, oh, you know what? This is a person that cared, and okay, man, now I'm ready to talk.
Thanks, Mohsen, for sharing that. That's really great information. There's one more question that we'll address. Marcella, do the HR supports apply to retirees?
That's a good question. So Chappelle, it's only for active employees. I will double check just to make sure, you know, as we continue. But all of the other things that are listed there are available to all. Let me just check really quickly in the retiree, but my understanding it's only for active employees only.
Okay,
Having said the MySSP program is available for alumni. So you don't have to be an active student to access the My Student Support Program. You can, if you've been graduated from here and it's been 5 years, 10 years, whatever, you can still access MySSP.
Yeah, I just confirmed that it's not. So Chappelle, it's only for active employees.
Okay. Well, thank you both for your time. I realize it's a couple minutes after noon, but it was such a timely discussion that we had some really great questions that came forward. We look forward to sharing the resources and the documents that you talked about today. And if there's any other additional training or sessions, we'll also include that in the information. So I just want to, again, thank the speakers for today. And I think we all can take something away from today's presentation as we continue to navigate our way through and out of this pandemic. So since this is the last session for the Accessibility Awareness Days event for 2022, I just want to take a moment to thank all of our presenters who made this event possible. Special thanks to our Student Accessibility Initiatives Coordinator, Nicole Canzaneri, for assisting with the event every week. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the students, faculty, and staff who contribute to the university's accessibility committees, as well as the many other accessibility champions that we have across campus. We appreciate everyone's contributions to make our university more accessible, equitable, and inclusive for all. And thank you to all our participants who took time out of your busy schedules to join these important discussions. We are encouraged by your participation and your interest. Until next year, thank you.